This is just a revision of few MCQs, few topics to be covered again. There you seeing is push. Okay, is the slide visible? Raise your hands. Good. Okay, so you are seeing is the line of gravity passes through. This question is about the line of gravity which passes through. Now, of course, you will have to see the line of gravity in a lateral view, because in AP view it will obviously pass through the median plane. While I'm talking about the trunk, it will pass through the median plane. But in a lateral view, when we'll talk, so the points from where it passes through is a question here. From where does it passes through? So the line of gravity passes in a lateral view, passes through the cervical and lumbar vertebrae, anterior to the hip joint and in front of the knee and ankle joint. Okay? Anterior to the hip joint, one thing, and in front of the knee and ankle joint. Next is it passes through cervical and sacral vertebrae, and it passes behind the hip joint and in front of the knee and ankle joint. Third option is that it will pass through cervical and lumbar spines, behind the hip joint and in front of the knee and ankle joint. Last one option is it passes through cervical and sacral vertebrae, behind the hip joint and behind the hip and knee joint and anterior to the ankle joint. That is about the line of gravity. Where does it passes through? Okay. What will be the answer? So you should know the answer before I explain it. The answer is cervical and lumbar vertebrae. Remember, both of these spines are secondary curvatures. These being secondary curvatures, they have anterior convexity, right? Lordosis. So the line of gravity will pass through cervical and lumbar vertebrae. One thing. Then behind the hip joint, it will pass behind the hip joint and in front of the knee and ankle joint. Got it? So this is important because you have to stand against the gravity. Your weight of line of gravity should pass such that you are able to balance your body against gravity vertically. So here you're seeing it, this passes through the cervical spine, then it passes to the lumbar joint, right? Lumbar spine, it passes behind the hip joint. This is supposed to be the acetabulum. This is pubic symphysis. So this is the hip joint. So it is passes, you can see it passes here behind the hip joint. Then it passes anterior to the knee and the ankle joint. So it passes through cervical and lumbar spine and has an anterior which have anterior convexity. So the line of gravity passes through these regions of the spine. Also, it passes behind the hip joint and in front of the knee and ankle joint. Okay. Next question is, a 45-year-old woman is wasting of intrinsic muscles of the hand. Okay. Wasting of intrinsic muscles of the hand, weakness and pain in the wrist, and difficulty in forming the fist. Which of the following nerve has most likely been injured? So you have to select the most appropriate answer in this. wasting of intrinsic muscles of the hand. Okay, only this point is relevant there. They've given. Then age, of course, age से ज़्यादा relevance नहीं है. They are another that pain, obviously pain is there, so that means some sensory loss will be there, as well as there's difficulty in forming the fist. Fist formation is a tough task in this condition. Which nerve is injured? Ulnar nerve, radial nerve, brachial nerve, axillary nerve, thenar and hypoglossal nerve. Thenar and hypothenar nerve, sorry. So what will be the answer here? I think you should know this, that it's ulnar nerve. So you know that there are 20 intrinsic muscles of the hand on the palmar surface, out of which there are five groups of 4 each. 4 muscles of thenar group, 4 muscles of hypothenar group, 4 lumbaricals, 4 palmar interossei, 4 dorsal interossei. Out of these 20 muscles, there are only 5 muscles which are innervated by median nerve, and these muscles are the 3 muscles of thenar eminence, and that is AFO, proximal to distal AFO, that is abductor pollicis brevis. Then you have flexor pollicis brevis and opponens pollicis. Apart from these 3 muscles, first and second lumbaricals also, they are also innervated by median nerve. So these are the 5 muscles innervated by median nerve. Out of the 20 intrinsic muscles, the remaining 15 intrinsic muscles, they will all be innervated by ulnar nerve. And out of those 15 muscles, only 1 muscle will be innervated by superficial branch of ulnar nerve, and that is palmaris brevis. The rest of the muscles, they will be innervated by the deep branch of ulnar nerve. And what is the last muscle innervated by ulnar nerve? That will be the adductor pollicis muscle, which is a muscle of thenar group, but it is innervated by ulnar nerve. Got it? Very occasionally, sometimes there is a muscle which has dual innervation. Which muscle is that? And that is flexor pollicis brevis. It might have nerve supply from both median and ulnar nerves. Okay, so that, and of course, we're talking about wasting of muscles is one thing, and difficulty in forming. Remember, if ulnar nerve paralysis happens at the wrist joint, what happens? It's partial claw hand. Partial claw hand. That means hyperextension at the MP joints and complete flexion at IP joints. And leaving, index may, because of first and second lumbaricals, remember. So there is incomplete claw hand. And of course, there will be difficulty in formation of the fist. In case of, remember, median nerve injury at the wrist, what happens is the deformity is ape-like hand. No. Yes, ape-like hand कह सकते हो या pointing index. Right? Ape-like hand is a better word. Pointing index will happen, right? When there is a median nerve injury at the level elbow. So yes, supracondylar fracture में होता है. यहाँ पे क्या हो जाएगा? Ape-like hand, because weakness of the thenar eminence, the eminence will be lost, and the thumb will be brought in the plane of the digits. Right? So the difficulty in formation of the fist and the wasting of muscles, that makes you think about ulnar nerve. Right? And of course, the majority of the muscles are by ulnar nerve. The other 2 options, like brachial nerve and thenar and hypothenar nerves, these are vague options. There is no nerve like brachial nerve. There is no nerve like thenar and hypothenar nerves. Right? They are just artifacts, you can say, this to distractors. Okay. So if there is wasting of intrinsic muscles of the hand, that means there is involvement of ulnar and median nerve. Out of this 20 intrinsic muscles of the hand, 15 are supplied by ulnar and 5 supplied by median nerve. However, flexor pollicis brevis is supplied by both ulnar and median nerve, but not always. It's a rare condition. Okay. Question number 3. Ascending pharyngeal artery sends its meningeal branches into the skull through all of the following foramina except. Head and neck has been taught to you. dura mater has also been taught to you. I taught you the nerve supply of dura mater, the blood supply of dura mater, and I taught you the meningeal vessels which are entering into the cranium. So if you remember and answer this question, ascending pharyngeal artery sends its meningeal branches into the skull through all of the following foramina except it was sending 3 meningeal branches into the cranium. Okay, so let me tell you the answer. The answer is foramen spinosum से नहीं जाता, foramen lacerum से भी बजाता है. I told you it was actually plugged in with a cartilage in life and the vessels, the tertiary veins. This was this meningeal artery, and then remember, in fact, internal carotid artery has a course of this artery of pericardial canal and the endothelial nerve. You know, greater petrosal, deep petrosal, they were all joining here. So this was foramen lacerum. Remember, learn these few important foramina. There are always somehow questions and viva questions being asked on these foramina. Foramen lacerum, foramen ovale, foramen magnum, jugular foramen, rotundum, all are very important. And superiorbital fissure also is important. Optic canal. So one was this jugular foramen से, ये तो हमने repeat पूरा एक lecture है उसमें glossopharyngeal के साथ है complete कराया था Vegas SS3 के साथ भी. So there was a meningeal branch from ascending pharyngeal entering into the anterior part of the jugular foramen and hypoglossal canal. Hypoglossal canal से 3 structures याद रखने हैं. There will be hypoglossal nerve passing out. There 2 things were coming back into the posterior canal. One is meningeal branch of hypoglossal nerve and the ascending pharyngeal artery की meningeal branch. Okay, so the structures passing through foramen spinosum से क्या कहता है, you know, but it is a hit question that middle meningeal artery enters into the cranium through this, and this meningeal artery, middle meningeal artery, will be covered by sympathetic plexus. And one important thing, what about this sympathetic plexus around middle meningeal artery that gives a nerve to the petrous temporal bone, and within the petrous temporal bone, this sympathetic branch arising from the plexus around middle meningeal artery will supply geniculate ganglion, or which communicates with geniculate ganglion. The nerve is external petrosal nerve. Remember this. So one thing is this middle meningeal artery that passes through foramen spinosum. The other is posterior trunk of the middle meningeal vein and meningeal branch of mandibular nerve. That's called nervus spinosus. So that's how, like, you know, the nerve supply of dura is. These nerves, when they emerge out, they soon give their meningeal branches back, right? So that's what's happening here in the hypoglossal nerve also, and you've seen this in case of mandibular nerve. Mandibular nerve foramen ovale se jayegi, and it gives it meningeal branch back into the middle cranial fossa through the foramen spinosum. Right? That is called nervus spinosus. All can act as anti-gravity muscles except gluteus maximus, one option, gastrocnemius soleus is another option, popliteus or quadriceps femoris. Out of these muscles, which muscle is not anti-gravity muscle? Anti-gravity muscle, you can understand that these muscles help you elevate your body against the gravity. Simple. So I told you this, while a person sitting in a squatting position, having all his joints, major joints, hip joint, knee joint, and ankle joint, hip and knee are in full flexed condition. Ankle also in the state of flexion. So when a person stands up against gravity, the extensors of these joints will come into play, and those extensors will be an anti-gravity muscle, right? And otherwise, latissimus dorsi is another muscle which helps you climb. That also is an anti-gravity muscle. There are several other muscles you can presume which are helping you climb up against, extend yourself against gravity. So here the answer will be popliteus. Popliteus, is the key muscle of the knee joint, which helps to unlock your knee joint. And unlocking happens when from standing you plan to sit down. So So there it is this lateral rotation of femur over the stable tibia, and that is called unlocking, and which is brought about by popliteus. Okay, so the answer here, only popliteus does not help in lifting up your body weight above the ground. Rest of the muscles help in standing up, straightening your body after sitting in squatting position, right? Gluteus maximus is a powerful extensor of the hip joint. Quadriceps femoris is a powerful extensor of knee joint. Gastrocnemius and soleus, they are, plantar flexors. So all of them are anti-gravity. Lastly, this question, nutrient foramen in clavicle will be directed medially, laterally, superiorly, inferiorly. Okay, so this one is easy, I think. Laterally, this was taught to you earlier also regarding this nutrient foramen. One thing, you should have this concept about the growing and the long bones. There were 4 criteria, as I told you. Most important criteria was you have to presume the fetus in a fetal lying position. There will be flexion of elbow and flexion of knee, flexion of shoulder, flexion of hip. That's how the fetal lying position is. In that fetal lying position, the end of the long bones nearer to the head, they will be the growing ends. That's one criteria. The other criteria is that the growing end is opposite to the direction of the nutrient foramen. The third criteria was that the bulkier end of the long bone will be the growing end, but this one has an exception, exceptions. And the last of all will be the there's a primary center of ossification, there's secondary centers for epiphysis both ends. So at the growing ends of the bones, the metaphysis and epiphysis, they are first to fuse and last. They're first to appear and last to fuse, and that's the reason they become bulkier. So there were different criteria, which I might explain some other time, but here you can just see that these are the clavicles. The bulkier end is here on the medial side. These are the growing ends, and these are the centers where secondary center is first to appear and last to fuse. Remember, clavicle has a lot of peculiarities, and out of those peculiarities, one is that it is intramembranous ossification. It's a long bone having intramembranous ossification, but not completely. The sternal end ossifies from enchondral ossification, and some authors mentioned that the lateral end also might have sometimes this ossification, enchondral ossification, but that external end is enchondral. So this is the growing end, and of course the nutrient foramen will be directed laterally. Okay. By the way, what is the arterial supply for clavicle? What is the nutrient artery to clavicle? बताओ जल्दी से. Suprascapular artery. I told you suprascapular artery was giving nutrient branch to both two bones here. One is clavicle, another is scapula. So both these arteries, both these bones are receiving blood from suprascapular artery. So the nutrient foramen is directed away, opposite to the growing end of the long bone. Since the growing end of the long bone is towards the cephalic end, when assumed in a fetal-like position, the position is of complete flexion at major joints like the elbow and hip joint and knee joint. So in this position, the end nearer to the head end is the medial end. So this will be the lateral end. So this will be away from the head end. The nutrient artery will be directed opposite to the